Hello.
Is that working?
I can hear you.
You can?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Now we'll start.
I didn't know we were filming. Now I know we're filming. But I
Hey
mean, you could use
Gio,
the stuff
how's
at
it
the top.
going?
It's going cool, Matt. See, I'm like stupid. Now I'm like trying to be cool, and that's not gonna work.
Don't even worry
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite parts about you. Okay, so when you were down there, I mean, you've been acting your butt off,
Yeah.
working a lot.
I work hard. I mean, like, let's see. I have been acting since 2003, and I didn't realize how difficult it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lie, but how competitive the industry was until I got down to LA. Because in San Francisco, it's the Bay Area acting community is really like warm and fuzzy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you go and you make stuff with your friends because you love it. When you go to the auditions, you watch each other's children's. If you have children's, you say hi, you hug each other. In LA, it's like so different.
Yeah.
Like when I went to UCB, and I'm an introvert already, like you can feel like how much people like want it and how like gung-ho they are. Like when they're like, okay, give me 10 volunteers, they're like up and at it, and I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so it kind of upped my game in that way.
Right.
And just being a woman and being a person of color in the industry is you have to work your butt off like 3 times as hard for like less opportunities. So yeah, I've been working hard, Matt.
Oh, when
Doing the thing.
it was really funny when I was there in the halls of the UCB. I just came back from Ireland, and this friend, I was just talking about how terrifying it was. In Ireland, they had me say one line, right? One line, and when they told me to say one line, I've never been that nervous in my life, and I was like, that was terrifying to say one thing near a camera. I wasn't even going to be on. I just needed to say it for cue.
Eyeline?
Yeah, and so I was terrified. And then one of my friends was just like, hey, there was just an opening at this, someone dropped out of this one class. There's an opening at it. You should go. And I'm sitting up here in the Bay Area, and I was like, when does it start? And this is on Wednesday, and they're like, starts whatever, Monday or whatever. And I was like, okay. And I got there, and after the first class, they were saying, because they've seen me do a million things. They've seen me, jump off stuff and fight and do it, but I was just shaking. The whole rest of the day, I was terrified, just shaking. See, I couldn't think, and they were like, so we've never seen you this terrified. We've never seen you this stressed out. And I'm like, I've never been this stressed. I've never been this stressed out. And so then they.
But now you badass.
But then all I did was I just told them, I just said, all right, tomorrow I'm just going to be the first person up every time. I'm just going to say yes every time. And so I just got there, and I even told the guy, look, this is terrifying for me. I don't get up in front, I don't do any of this stuff. So I'm not trying to be a hog, but just if I could just be the first person up, and I'm not asking to be, but I'm gonna try every time to be the first one or two every time. And he was like, okay, yeah, good, go for it. He was supportive of that. But it was really funny because that's all I wanted to do, was just say yes and just get up there and fail miserably. But that's what fail quick,
Yes.
fail, and then
Yes.
and then I remember talking to some people in the halls, and then they were just like, how old are you? And I was like, 42 or 43, and they were just like, oh, and then they just like walked away. Because like they're all like 19, 21,
Yeah,
and
like
then
the young,
yeah, it was
youngie one.
yeah, it's really funny when they find out you're in your 40s, you just become this irrelevant.
Oh, no.
Yeah, loved
How
it.
long ago was that, Matt? Like, when was this?
This is-
When were you at UCB?
This is last year.
You were at UCB last
Yeah.
year in LA,
Yeah.
and I didn't know.
Yeah. I nobody really. No, I was so petrified when I was down there, and I was just writing every day, and And yeah, I have a really amazing idea. I'll talk to you about it later. It would be a very, very, very
when
funny
we're not
thing.
recording? Okay.
Yeah, when we're not recording.
When we're not recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause
why didn't you tell us that you were down here? Because I know you have to have two shows as a class requirement.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Dan could have gone and seen shows together, and I would have been like, Matt, I have backline scared face all the time. It has never gone away. I've taken, the improv classes there, was on a freaking team, not at UCB, but like on an independent team, and I could not get rid of the freight that was on my face on the backline all the time.
It's really scary. And, the funny thing is so I just got I was doing this stuff with the police out here, right? And then when I was also in DC,
you're totally fine with that.
Yeah.
You're not scared of that at all.
Well, it's interesting. It's like I'm afraid of a squirrel, but I'm not afraid of a really large human being. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I know that, right? It's the devil, and so when I was working with the police. And a lot of the writing tools that I use, like that thinking A to C kind of thing, that's the way I get rid of I never have writer's block for one reason, is every morning I wake up and I click and I go to randomwordgenerator.com and it generates 3 words and I think A to C on each one and tell a story about each word. So no matter what comes up, I've been doing that for a very long time. And
I didn't know that you were a writer.
Yeah.
All these things I don't know about you, Matt.
Yeah.
I knew that you wrote like a book about martial arts or like a cookbook of some sort.
I've written many books and I've never had the courage to put them out.
But Matt, you have much knowledge that the world needs to know.
But here's the thing. When my whole life I've been trying to sell and get people really into personal responsibility. Okay. And what I've learned is there's the only people that care are already taking it, and it's really hard to sell personal responsibility in a novelty-based culture, right? It's very hard to do that. In a
sexy way.
Yeah. And
pretty much.
And that's a really hard thing, because I think we all have to sell authenticity.
But even that phrase is so weird.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I get it. I understand it. We have to sell authenticity, and this is the way that the world is going. But even that phrase, makes me feel weird.
Well, because authenticity has been hijacked by marketing, which is in itself inauthentic, right? And the thing about the personal responsibility that I do is, I look at martial arts and what I do, it is not a business, it's a service. Just like when art meets commerce, it kind of dilutes it a lot. So in a perfect world, we would have commerce that supports art, but instead art is the commerce, and that doesn't really work, because what happens is that's what kills art, right? And in a service industry like me, I'm into wellness. So wellness is easy. It's just like you shouldn't fight disease, you should study health, right? It's like you learn how to create a healthy body, not fight disease. Oh, sorry. And downstream thinking is like, I just live my life until I get sick, and then I go to the doctor, and then we fight that disease, right? And so this is where commerce needs to step in and be like, if we want to make a more powerful world, we'll get these people that know how to make money, and then they, it's kind of what happened to, Mozart and all this. They were supported by somebody.
Patreon. Yeah.
And it's very important for this, or we're just going to keep getting diluted, watered down art that is based off novelty and drama and making us weaker as humans.
I agree, and I haven't figured that out yet, and I think that's one of the reasons why I am in LA, is trying to figure out how to do the production side of it and the distribution, because we both know amazing artists. We know people that are brilliant, but they don't have the support that they need to, because of the powers that be. Usually the ones that have the money kind of want to keep the power, or tell the same stories over and over that keep that way of thinking in power. I think it's changing. I hope it's changing. And by the way, with the marketing stuff, is that why Total BS Wellness is like a tongue-in-cheek name, because it's BS?
Well, it's I always say, because this is the same thing. People will be like, hey, could you teach me that? I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I mean, I can coach you in some certain things, and I can teach you ways to look at it, but the only way to buy skill is with time and energy. Like, you can't buy anything from me. Like, you can give me all the money. Your money pays for my time and energy, but my time and energy is just to sort of throw some ideas out. And then the rest is up to you. So total BS technically stands, like, most injury mentally, physically, emotionally is created by imbalance. So total BS stands for total balancing sequence. But it also stands for everything is bullshit if you don't show up in practice. So that's
I'm like, this is so mad.
Yeah.
It's so tongue in cheek. It's so like. By the way, I'm wearing the octopus.
Oh.
By the way, yeah, in honor of this.
Thank you very much.
Like one of my favorite tank tops that Den gave. I haven't. For disclaimer, I haven't taken any of Matt's classes because I'm a weakling.
You have two. You did
probably
Yama series over at the Hapkido Institute.
I think I took one class and I was like so tired and so like, oh my god, what the F is this shit?
Yeah.
And the thing that you told me about it was like that really stuck with me. You were like, yoga was meant for everybody and meant for like, the poor classes, and it's been kind of hijacked to this like, what is Lululemon kind of like very high end thing, and that comment made me think about stuff like for a long time. Where just now I'm starting to see, oh my god, not just now but like the past couple of years I've been more about like, trying to decolonize my brain type of thing. But yeah, that was you putting that seed in my head like years ago.
Yoga, like the idea is, around a lot of these yoga and wellness cults and stuff like that, it's, I need to get rich, so therefore I need to keep you a beginner and I need to keep you thinking that you need me. But really, this was developed by poor people with a lot of time on their hands, really with not a lot of education, right? So if we look at the story of like a guy sits in a cave for 9 years and practices the same 8 exercises and then discovers, the sort of secrets of the universe, there's your formula, right? And you need the basics of learning how to feel. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference between pain and discomfort, hurt and harm? But once you get past that, you don't really, a teacher is there to guide you, but it's all your work. And that's what freaks me out about that, the yoga tree kind of Lululemon world, is it goes too much spiritual bypass, when really it's like mind, body, and spirit all go together, right? Just like thoughts, words, and actions are all moving together. But when you can always tell when someone just doesn't really want to hold a plank because they start going into spiritual stuff, you know what I mean? And you can always tell when someone doesn't want to do spiritual stuff because they're just getting you to hold a plank, and they're forgetting that it's both. And do the one you don't want to do. And that's, and it's funny because you will get really tired after my classes.
I was so tired and so sore. But I will. And the best part is I get a lot of the ego guys that are like, I want to go hard, and then they go into my class, done. And a lot of them will be like, I want to go hard. I'm like, I'm not going to let you go hard. And they're like, well, I want to go hard. And then the next day they're like, I can't come back. I couldn't walk for 5 days. And I'm like, and I'm like, imagine if I let you go hard, you would die. Whatever that means.
Whatever. Yeah. Hard just means I want to try really hard and remove my thoughts, words, and actions from this. I just want to pound out reps. And it's oftentimes mindless, unless you're doing like, I work with a lot of strongmen, and they're lifting all these crazy, you have to have perfect technique. So but there is just a part where people just need the novelty and the stimulation, right, versus doing the work. So it's a little weird, but you've done a class.
I've done a class.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You're like, hey.
I feel like I can kind of wear the shirt like authentically, kind of, sort of, because one class.
No, you are part of this place, so don't worry about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for you. So what was your first? I remember seeing you. You got a couple TV shows when you're out here, but then when you went down there, you got a few more.
Yeah. So let's see. I don't know. I like ER was my first one when I was up there, and the whole reason why I was up there and never made the move down to LA is because I have a kiddo, and that was like a big part of it. And then when Den, needed, like, he, closed up his school because of the rent stuff, and then moved down here, that was like our first big move in together, after I don't know how many years.
Right.
And I was like, okay, the universe is forcing me to go down here.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff what did I book out here? I booked 2 commercials my first year, did an episode of Perfect Harmony, got to work with Bishop from Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
Which is like, I was just like, and that was a kind of like a crazy story because I didn't think that I got the role. I went through 4 auditions, and then they gave the role to another guy. Like, it's kind of like a crazy story. So 4 auditions, you're emotionally tapped out. You think you get the role because you're down there to last, you're doing a chemistry read with a guy that is supposed to play your boss, who was this guy, and I'm not going to say his name because, he might get mad at me, or I don't know, whatever. But this guy, this known guy, is supposed to play my boss. But then they got Lance Henriksen to sign on, and Lance Henriksen is amazing. So they bumped me out, and then it was just going to be Lance Henriksen with this guy as the underling, right? Yeah. And I was like, damn it, I was so close. And then I was sad, and then the director and the producer asked me to come to the table read, and I was like, fine, I'll come to the table read, and I'll read the narration, which is what they asked me to do. And then I found out at the table read that they created a role for me. So it was like Lance Henriksen, this guy as his underling, and then me as another underling to this guy named Jackie.
Oh.
So that was kind of cool. And then the guy in the middle, the guy that was supposed to be my boss that, kind of got bumped around, totally went like, you're giving some of my lines to her? And then pulled like a total diva thing. And then so he got fired, and they had to have another guy come in and replace him before shooting, which is like crazy. So yeah. Like crazy Hollywood stories. I don't know, what else did I do? I still have a series on Amazon Prime right now, and then I have a movie coming up called Middleton Christmas with Eileen Davidson, who's a super 2-time Emmy nominee soap opera person, and Michael Pare, who I guess did some really big, I know, this is horrible, he did some really big movie about being a rock star a long time ago. I don't remember what it is.
Was it
I don't know.
Was it the David Bowie thing?
Oh,
I'll look it up.
Gosh, this is but evidently he's big, like for an older generation, I think. So yeah. So like my grandpa would have a crush on him, I think.
When what's your series on Amazon?
Dyke Central. It was filmed in Oakland.
Oh, Dyke Central. Yeah.
But because the 2 leads are masculine of center on that show, we didn't get a lot of mainstream publicity. We got a lot of like kudos from the LGBTQ press and stuff like that. But like mainstream, people aren't ready for it, and just now people are starting to get into the different spectrum of genders. Yeah. It's only now kind of like being accepted. So, but yeah, when we did that was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and it just came out like 2 or 3 years ago on Amazon, I think.
I love I have some youngins. I've worked in some social, kind of social justice-y kind of places, and I love working with the youngins when they get like 13, 14, kind of when they're trying to figure out who they are. And now a lot of them are, since a lot of them aren't really social at all, right? Like a lot of them, they don't get a lot of social time, and so they don't know what they're into, and it's like, I just remember like the old days. It's like you just want to like make out with, so it's like that's what you want to do, but it's like now it's just not the same, and it's so funny to watch them kind of going through all of that now, because they're just coming in and I have to ask them to stop changing their names. I'm like, look, you're gonna keep doing that over and over, and like just figure out who you are, but like until you're like really dive in, it's like I don't ask anyone to commit to anything until they're a little bit old. It's like you don't want to commit to anything until you're older. So like right now I'm totally for you just trying as many things out as possible. And it was like club kids in the 90s. It was like every other day you're like, I used to be called Bob, but now I'm Qtron. And then the next day they're like, I'm Future Man, and you're like, dude, you got to stop. Like, I know. You just yesterday you had like a vision on ecstasy, and now you think you're from the future. And let me guess, today you only wear rainbow colors, and I am now rainbow. And you're like, okay, cool, but like, just once you solidify who you are, well, we're in. But like, I can't keep track. It's already hard enough to remember everyone's name. It's so fun. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I just remember those days. You're just like, oh my God, what are they called today? Like, what's your name now? It's like every day is a new name. And I'm like, you're trying things. This is the best part about, I was trying to teach them the other day on how to properly rebel. And because one of them comes in thinking like they're weird because they have like blue hair. And I'm like, wait, did your parents take you to get that blue hair? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, no.
But they're trying it.
Your parents are supposed to wake up one day, wonder where you are for 2 days, and then you show up with blue hair. And I'm like, that's how you rebel. I'm like, you're not supposed to ask. You're not supposed to ask. And they were just like, okay. And I was like, so you got to learn how to just like, you got to learn how to push those boundaries. You can't just like, Mom, will you take me to the mall to get a professionally done blue hair? No,
My mom heart is like, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I will be supportive of you as long as I know about it.
Yeah,
I will support you.
Yeah, that's the way.
I will die if my kid ever like not showed up for 2 days. Yeah. Like I can't even think no.
It would be a nightmare. I mean, I don't have a kid. And
yeah, this is why you're so flippant about it. Yeah. And you could be like the outside cool guy teacher, you know.
Well, they just have to know. Yeah. It's like, I can't watch you pose as some rebel when your mom bought it. You know what I mean? I just can't. I can't. It's like I'm from a world where it's like, because when I was in California, this is the first place in my life that I've worked with a group of people that don't know what a poser is, because they were all posers. And I was like, like you guys are faking it.
It's kind of a generation of that right now.
Yeah. It's like, so if life is art, what we're trying to do is bridge the gap between what we want to happen and what's actually going to happen. That's kind of what art is, right? If if you want to play a song, or you want to do a painting, or you want to act, like you have what's going on in your mind and your desires, and the better you get, the closer that gap is to what's really going, and that's the whole idea. And
bringing up the vision from the ethers to
and so this is really important. And the problem is when it happens in real time, you get this sort of real time feedback of understanding like how to keep bridging those gaps. But right now we have less opportunity for that, right? And so therefore we have a lot more opportunity for fear-based outrage and trolling and all the, and like the other thing is there's this old punk tune that I love. They always say it's not the death, it's the waiting. So it's like when someone just says one thing and you sort of are already feeling insecure about what you might have edited and put all your heart and soul into, and then this anonymous thing comes out from out of nowhere and isn't what you desired, then your brain just spirals out of control. Right? As opposed to you're just in a room, you say a joke and it wasn't that funny. And we don't get that opportunity to just go on stage and bomb. And then life sort of says, do you want to come back or not?
I kind of like that though about the online world. And this is me because this might just be me because I am an introvert. I know it doesn't seem like it, especially because it's like we're talking one-on-one. I'm cool with this. Also because I know you, but all my if I don't know people, this is also where I get the backline scared face and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta talk to people. Oh my god. But I kind of like the fact that when people create, they can put it online and kind of edit out. But you have to be in the right brain space to not pay attention to the comments because people are commenting from behind a anonymous screen, and just being able to put their art there, or whatever their comments are, or whatever they want to put out into the world, and just let it flourish. You know what I mean? I think that's cool. And then you have like the opposite end of like people with like really not good intentions of putting like propaganda out there, which is also, it flourishes just as much.
Well, this is where there's a lot of, we need a lot of maturity in order to be able to whittle through that. It's like kind of, I remember going to this, one of my heroes was always Cyrano de Bergerac, and so it's kind of, but if you don't have that, but again, that edge comes from when you're a performer, you're always just, you want to get better. Like I meet a lot of people, it's hard for them to be coached because they feel like they're being judged, right? As opposed to just, when you work with professionals, they're always saying, at the end of everything, they're like, all right, any notes? What can I do better? They're always asking that. But then there's other people
allow yourself to be judged.
Yeah. And that's the fearlessness of being an artist, is you might not be doing anything dangerous, but you are going into an environment and opening yourself up to just anonymous judgment and critique. And that is the fearlessness of it. It's sort of like a emotional fearlessness. But there are a lot of people that don't consider the before and the after, and they just think, I'm just going to do this thing and it's going to get me this, this, and I'm, they're just going to hold me up like the end of Rudy, and I'm just going to be this hero. And when it's not received in the way that you want, we're not looking at it as, okay, what went wrong? How can I make it better? What are the notes? We're just looking at it as like, I'm bad.
I'm shitty. I suck. I don't mean anything to anyone anymore.
Yeah. And you write that damn song, I'm Alone. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. I don't need that.
They say that, like, I've heard this quote about acting, and it probably has to do with like a lot of different art forms, that acting is like being naked in a room full of people and turning around really, really slowly. So but it's like you have to allow yourself to be judged and actually be okay with it, because people are gonna judge you no matter what. So one of my mentors or my pupils was like, whatever somebody else's opinion, it's no matter what your opinion of me is, good or bad, it's none of my business. Just take it. If you can take the critiques, take the ones that you feel would help you, but then the other stuff, if it doesn't work, don't pay attention to it.
And it's good to just see the feedback. There was someone, because I spent about 10 years on the road, and it was really funny because I was just a folk singer, right? And going into these southern college towns and redneck bars, and when you're not about to play any cover songs, you're about to play only your own music, and you're going to walk in front of a wall of TV sets during a game of sports.
Oh, shoot. Oh, no.
And the bartender and the manager is saying, we told you to go on at this time, and it is now this time, and the game is now not over. And so you have to just kind of walk up with your acoustic guitar, put it on, and just look at a room full of people that are glued with their pitchers of beer, and then you have to just turn it off and play
for yourself.
And oh my God, they don't want you there. And and you just kind of, you're just like, okay, why am I doing this? And then you just do it. And it's really funny how that happened. And then I went into working in inner city schools, and like it's kind of either me or jail kind of stuff. And then you're there, and when you're sitting in a high school gymnasium with 100 teenagers, and then you're just like, all right, let's do this. So it's like there were so many, I would just kill to be in a room full of like judgy adults. Anytime you join a team, we become high school students, right? Like that's just what we do. We become monkeys, right? Looking for that. And so to get people out of that and get them into their conscious mind, any of these improv games, and you don't have to say we're playing a game, and this is the thing that messes up. Like this is what happens like when, the kind of do-gooder wants to go into the inner city and they want to like change people's lives. They're like, all right, we're going to play a game and it just needs to be fun. It's like, they're just like, yeah, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you a lot. And really it's just like, I want you to rant about something. I want you to tell me what you like about something. First, tell me something you could talk about. Like, just, I could ask you, we get to talk all day about this. And they'll be like, all right, sports or whatever. And you're like, okay, now rant about something, rave about something. Okay, cool. Now tell me something you just couldn't talk anything about, like something that some people talk to you about, but and I would just get them thinking like that. And then we would go from there. And then once they're used to talking in front of each other, then we can start going into talking and doing role-playing style stuff, but really scripting it out. And not scripting out, but really making it small, short, and teaching them how to cut in and help people. All right, if you have an idea now, go, but the idea has to do one of these things. Like really setting it into the idea of we're not trying to, because what's happening now is that being not gentle or it's like the guys that I'm working with
are being creepy.
Yeah.
Being creepy was a really big one.
Yeah.
It was so gross.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so
you got the rapport building.
Yeah, so we did a lot of things on rapport building. There was a lot of really cool things around how to really set up to let this person know that you're there to serve them. Like there's this one beautiful this one trainer, and his whole thing is like, I know you guys hate to hear that like when people go and I pay your salary, you're working for me, I pay taxes, and he goes, I know you hate to hear that, but guess what? They pay he goes, they pay our salary, and we're working for them. And he goes, so let them call you.
To protect and to serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these guys are like it's all these cool groups that are in the system, and they've said, we're going to create groups outside of the system and really reach out to improv people, theater of the oppressed, and all these like extremely talented people that really transform people's lives, and we're going to learn their skills, and then we're going to bring it back in, and teach
empathy.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's like the biggest thing.
So over the past, I guess, couple of years, this is actually, I just got a care package from some of those guys saying thanks for the work with them, because they're open to it beyond.
And I think like coming from you, because you are a badass and you just like radiate that, like I have lived shit, like they will listen to that from you, which is like, that is great and that's awesome. And, we do need that kind of role playing and empathy building and group thinking in those spaces. So
one of the things that I it's like when it's just like if I go in there and I can talk like that, it's the same. And it's like, so you might feel unwelcome when you're in there because you might not be from that world, but it's just it's very similar. Like when I went into the UCB the first time, like they stopped me because they would start these things and I would just like instantly come out with just the weirdest and then all the kids are looking at me like it was just like they wanted to tell the story. This one time, this one person was like, piercing a tongue or whatever, and then I was just telling a story on how like when I was on tour, like one of the MCs I got to meet was the Lizard Man, and he was supposed to go on tour with us, and then these guys were like, seriously, like out of anyone you could know, like this, then the Lizard Man is this guy with, he split his tongue and his whole body's tattooed as a lizard, and he has all these,
right.
And I'm like, yeah, and they're like, that guy. I'm like, well, yeah, my manager, went on tour with him, and I was hanging out with him, and they're just like, and they don't know what to think because.
But okay, so this was an improv 101 thing, right?
Yeah.
Like this is,
Right.
Okay. So they're supposed to take that and extrapolate on it, not be intimidated about your lived experience.
Yeah, I know.
That's like a them thing.
I know. I would get shut down so much, but towards the end.
But you know what? Wait. But like the thing is that I keep thinking about is that Matt, you went in there and you were like, I'm gonna be the first one. I'm gonna go every single time. And then you have all these stories about your lived experience, which like in my brain is like, oh, you know what? You know the reason why they probably like. Nah. It's not because you were 40 years old. It's because they were like probably like fucking show off. Like, so it might not even be the fact that you were 40. It was probably the fact that what is this guy getting up there every single time? First up, who does he think he is? Knowing the Lizard Man.
No,
That's
but
right.
I told all the people, I was like, okay, guys, I'm not trying to be a hog, but my biggest fear is to just get up there, and they're like, okay, so like,
And now they're like, yeah, right.
and I
You don't want to be.
oh no, they literally, they were like trying to, they could see how terrified I was. I would just be in the back, and I'd be on stage just like,
Yeah.
how do you guys, it is the most terrifying thing.
It is. No, I'm not part of the people that can do it well or can do it like with ease or with flow or with grace yet.
Really?
So I feel you. Yes. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Hard. What is one of your what are some of your favorite? What is the game that you shine at in the improv world, or that you like the most?
I don't shine at any games.
Okay. So what is your
Like,
what is the game you want to be best at?
My brain, see what happens to me in improv world is that somebody suggests something and then I think of something after somebody has already gone in and initiated the scene, and I'm like on backline like like, damn it.
I would have killed this.
So
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
No, I don't even think I would have killed it. I was like, I'm still in that. But I think what I do well is I support people a lot in improv. But what I like to do is that how like you learn how to figure out, okay, who is the weird person and who is the person that is going to help that person, and like the structures of the, A story, B story, C story thing, like that's helpful to me. But I really like the scripted work. So improv helps me in scripting things so that, it is scripted and I have time to know what to say instead of an improv where you have to be on the fly, like making up stuff as you go along.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any games that I like love or like excel at. I just try.
I like how you're like that I love.
I mean, like I the thing that I excel at is like putting myself out there and failing forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably it.
That's that I think the one thing that I saw with actors is the one thing that if I could have learned anything from them, it was the act of, and I guess I learned it as songwriting because I just kept writing songs, whether they're bad or good, you're just writing the next one. But acting is this thing where it's like, you almost can't be humiliated. You are, but it's like you can, but you just keep moving through it. You just keep acting through it, because sometimes life you get humiliated, and so you just kind of flow through it.
And you got to feel all the feelings.
Yeah.
That's what acting is about, is feeling all the feelings and not shaming yourself for feeling all the feelings, whether they're really dark or really embarrassing or really, really, amazing or, whatever. Like, you give yourself permission for that, and you don't judge yourself for feeling those things.
This is okay. So this is something that I always wonder about now, because we are such a fearful reactionary culture, and when you say we have to be able to feel all the feelings, and then there is a side of people now where it's like, can you make art that has like true hate in it and true, because it's like that tells good stories. And
it does.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about that sometimes, where it's like, are we becoming so afraid where our art has to be inauthentic? But I'm hoping it, usually it doesn't. But
I mean, I feel like we felt all the feelings that we're ever going to feel by the time we're 5. Like, so even the intense hatred to like kill somebody and enjoy it, like we've felt that already, and what I tell a lot of my students is that if we get those stories and we play those roles, we have to honor that too, because like we have to justify it from that person's perspective. Like, a bitch doesn't think she's a bitch, she thinks that she's right. An asshole doesn't think that he's being an asshole, he just thinks that he's being efficient with it. A lot of darker desires are motivated by, like a wound or a backstory or, something that happened to them where they're trying to make something right in their life, and those stories we have to honor as well, because we have to, like, that's how we empathize with those people. That's how we empathize for one another, and if we can't if we can't look at somebody that we think is evil and still hold like good thoughts towards them, then we're not really going to heal ourselves either.
Well, this is what we were talking about this with kids. Like, I feel that when somebody says something ignorant and we throw them in the hate bucket, we solidify what was just ignorance and we turn it into hate.
Yeah.
And then I just have to remind people all the time about the human state being a constant flowing thing. And I go, come on. I remind people all the time, when you were a kid, you hated your parents. Like, there was moments where you didn't get a toy and you hated your parents. Like, what you were like, I hate, and that hate was so real. That was the realest hate.
Yes.
And you would go into your room, but then you'd come out, and then your parents would make you food, and the hate's gone. But if your parents beat the crap out of you, shamed you, and then held that against you, like you're 9 years old, you tell your parents you hate them, and then when you turn 18 and it's about time to pay for college, they're like, no, you will never go to college because when you were 9, you said hate, and you're a parentist, and you're against parents, and you can never change because when you were that, it's like, motherfucker, like, everyone can change.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, look at your hairdo 20 years ago and look at your hairdo now. Like, you change.
Yeah. Like, emotions are transient.
Yeah.
This is what I try to teach, like, all the kids. There shouldn't be any shame surrounding whatever feelings that we do feel. And, like, this is what I love social media about. Like, there's this one clip about this little girl, and she's, like, throwing a fit. She's just like, are you okay? No, I am not okay. And she's, like, throwing, like, the biggest fit in the world. And the mom's like, do you want a snack? And she's like, yes.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's so transient. Like, we go through, like, these big swings of emotion that are totally justified in our minds, and then we could flip it on a dime,
Yeah, there's this talk I had this morning about weakness, and then these people were saying, I hate that, like, the liberal left movement is considered so weak because they don't know how to fight. And I'm like, well, actually, both sides are weak, because not knowing how to fight and just being this passive wimp is just as weak as not knowing how to fight and just picking up arms against someone and ending them life because this town ain't big enough for the both of us. Like, that is also a sign of weakness. They're just expressed in two extremes. It's just yin and yang.
Yep.
And I was like, no, they're both weak. They're equally as weak. Like, there's just as much weakness and fear in each of those things. And, like, to truly be a pacifist, being a pacifist is not being passive. Being pacifist is actually choosing to not, like, I remember my father said that. He was like, you train war to where you can say no to war, like, truthfully. Like, you can literally just be like, no, I'm not doing that. And you can say it from a point over there, like, we're never going to be able to get this guy to go to war. Like, and they know, like, you're not going to do this. And that's really, but that's, you got to be strong to do that. And so, like, it's funny because, like, any side that's, like, yelling at the other side, they're just yelling at a mirror all the time. You're just like, I hate the me and you, and it's just so, it's really funny to watch that because I'm like, no, like, when you're just sitting around your house with guns everywhere, that is weakness. Like literally pull the trigger and see how easy it is to make a loud destructive bang. Like, just that. It's actually harder to go limp. It takes a little bit more, like, energy because you got to move a lot more to go limp. It's hard.
I know nothing about guns, so
yeah,
I'm just taking what you say.
It's a twitch of a finger. Yeah, you got to hit the thing, but I say the gun is the lazy man's excuse to 10 years of karate class. It's just like, yeah.
I want to learn it all at some point in time. Like, I have this. I have this fantasy of, like, wanting to be a badass, but not really putting in the work.
Yeah, but
which is probably, like, the majority of people. Like, I want to be, but I'm.
You don't need it. You don't need it. You have energy. You're not food in this world. I mean, me and Dennis have talked so much about your hustle. Like, you're down there gunning. Like, you're gunning. You're teaching, you're acting. Okay,
thank you.
So let's talk about Gio real quick as the writer. So now you're writing.
Yes.
You're gonna write and produce.
So I write and produce because when I got here, well, I knew that there wasn't a lot of roles for, Asian American actresses. And it's changing, which is great, but it's changing because there are Asian American actors that got tired of it or, started creating their own work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and also I hate waiting around for people to give me permission. And I think, honestly, I talk to Dan about this all the time. Like, how like him and Jose, like they do all their stuff, right?
Yeah,
they do like all the filmmaking and stuff. And I didn't realize, because when they do their stuff, they're always like, yeah, I'm going to put myself as a lead. I'm the lead of this, da-da-da-da. And I never thought that way about myself. Like, I went through all this time and like, oh, okay, I can be the girlfriend, I could be the friend, I could be, all that stuff. And I never really thought about myself to even be the lead, to be okay with that. And it wasn't until UCB that I was just like, yeah, why don't I write myself into the lead? And there was a lot of shame that came up for me.
It feels like shit.
Yeah.
You feel like a jerk, right?
Yeah, I feel like, who am I to even think of myself that way, So, but like baby steps, I just, it was really the anger thing that really motivated me, to be honest. So remember that thing that I told you about the movie that was like, I went to 4 and then like I went to 4 auditions and then it was given to another guy and they told me to come back to read as the narrator. I was crying so much about that and I was like, fuck this thing, fuck this industry. And you have to bleep out all my fucks, I'm sorry.
We're okay.
And from that is where I wrote the script for LI 3000, which is, like the quick synopsis. I'm learning how to do long lines. This is a shitty long line. Is like, CEO figures out how to, or like he has a meeting about what it means to be a good ally, how to, and that kind of came up from that instance where it was like, what do I need to do if I'm not a white man in this industry to get ahead?
Yeah.
So that's where that kind of script kind of came from. So that has been making the festival rounds, and it got like best screenplay at the Culture and Diversity Film Festival. That was the first award. No, it was like an honorable mention at the Latinx Film Festival, and then it got like 6 more awards, and it's just kind of like on the festival circuit. So that's my little short film. I did another short film which was called Ultra Feminist, which was just like a spoken word poem that I got upset about something else. And like, how like you're a songwriter, so like when you get upset about something, sometimes like it just like something just downloads, and then you just like right. Yeah. So that's how I was feeling, and then I put it on tape just to my laptop. It was like a 1-minute thing, and I put it on the internet first, and then a producer said, Gio, you need to take that down because that's too political, and you don't want sponsors to be looking at that and being like, I'm not going to hire her because she's too political, right? I was like, fine, I'll take it down out of respect. And then I entered it into this like little tiny contest that I didn't think that it was going to do anything. It ended up winning an honorable mention there, and it went into this film festival called Outfest. So that was like another short film, and I was like, oh, maybe it's okay to be political. Yeah. Maybe this is what the universe is telling me to do, to not like, to actually really truly find my voice and be okay with it and be okay with putting it out there into the world. So now what I'm working on is I have a feature film screenplay called Disgrace, which is about a young woman who, when she finds out that her husband in the church is cheating on her and she is shunned by her church members, she meets a rock star bad boy named Hayden who she kind of makes a deal with, and he teaches her how to live rebelliously but also find happiness and all this shit, right? So and it's loosely based on the patriarchal biblical cult upbringing and coming out of that church.
Were you born into that cult?
I was not born into it. So I joined. Okay, I'm gonna give you the bridge version. Here's the bridge version. Let's see if I can do it. So my mom had me when she was young. She, and I get that this is why like a lot of stuff happened. She did the best that she could, but she married a guy who was abusive to me, sexually. And when I told her, she took his side, and I lived with my grandparents. My grandparents got sick, and so my mom said that because the medical care was better in the Philippines, we would all have to move to the Philippines. So in high school, we moved back to the Philippines. I found out that my mom had another family in the Philippines. And so my brain was like, right? Like, what is happening with the world? I ended up joining a youth group at church.
Ooh.
And there's something about youth groups and music and like feeling like you belong and wanting to be good like these people that draw you in. Mm-hmm. So they got me hook, line, and sinker, and they had all these charts that, we're about the end of the world and stuff like that. And it never starts out crazy. It never starts out crazy. So it starts out very loving and very fun and very like, ha 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 ha, we're going to sing songs about Jesus and da 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 da, and we're going to be good people. And then it just got crazier where they had like all these charts and like the end of the world, conspiracy theories, veganism, raw food diet plan. We had a preacher that was feeding his 11-month-old raw rice because it was like back to the Eden diet. We were learning like wilderness skills for the apocalypse, So I didn't join until high school, and then I got sent here to work for church members, sent to the United States to work for church members in Yosemite, and that was craziness. That's where I was married off to one of the elders in the church, and that's where I had Sam. Oh, I shouldn't say his name, but my kid, and you can bleep that out later. Leave that out later. And he is one of the best things, if not the best thing that has ever happened to me. I would totally, and I always say this, that I would go through all of it again to have him. Yeah. So that is like the abridged version. So I wasn't born into it. It was just something that I got involved with because I was in a space in my life where I needed some kind of structure and needed like family.
Yeah,
so.
And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm from Pensacola, and Pensacola still it's called the Brownsville Assembly, and it's this guy Jimmy Swaggart, who was a televangelist, and he went to prostitutes and all, he's one of those guys. But I got to sit through, because they have all these. I was actually approached by some of these cults too. They were just like, if you were into rock and roll, they had rock bands, and if you're into skateboarding, they had skate band, like all this stuff. And and they would find your thing, and they would do that. But like my first album, I had this disco track, and one of the guys in there was this kind of really evangelical, like kind of culty church in Atlanta, and it was where all the artsy fartsy, like great artists came from. And this Speech from Arrested Development, he was in that, and they would always try to use him. He was actually in the studio with. When I was making the record, and I had this disco song on there, and he was in there kind of bumping it with us, and but it was like they would just send all these like super hot artists to like check you out, and But here's my youth group story. Are you ready? I was a young punk kid, and everyone was going to save me because I'm a 12-year-old drug addict, right? And so I get invited to a youth group. I was not into any of that stuff. I do not like organized events. Never had, never will. We're in the van. I drove a motorcycle, so I show up on a motorcycle, boom, pull in, we get in the van. Of course, I smell like cigarettes and probably high as a kite, and we're in the van, and then the youth group guy, the main preacher, his daughter and her friends are in the back, and now I get in, and it's kind of long-haired, scrappy, whatever, and they're kind of the ones trying to save me, and they're trying to pretend that they're not all that goody-goody, right? And so they're just like, well, we're not good, and they're talking to me. And it's really funny. So the van starts moving, and yes, I was just like, look, I don't care. And then I just remember saying, look, if you're not that, and this is bad, I apologize, but I just basically said something to her, very, very, very vulgar. And it was funny. We didn't even make it out of the parking lot. You just hear, he gets out, opens up the door, and just get out. Like that was their... I didn't even make it out of the parking lot. I was like, I can't stand, because I couldn't stand posers. I was like, motherfucker, if you're just, it's like, this is a kid. But it was really funny. They tried. They were gonna save me. They were so nice at first, and then like 400 feet later, they're just like, nope, get out. Yeah, so I never got saved that day. Oh well, it happens. So you're writing a movie about that?
Fine.
All right,
yeah, so it's already done. It's done. It's the like script is done, yeah. And I just did this like I did my first pitch on it. Huh?
Are you the lead?
I am the lead, and I'm trying to not say that with the shame, but I am the lead.
Did you say with the shame?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm feeling the shame.
Yes, it's something I'm still working through. I'm still working through it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a pitch for it just like, I think 2 weeks ago. And I won the pitch. And I don't know what that means yet, but...
these are all those like script writing like competitions that you've been posting, like you won this, you win. You're a winner. I hate to break it to you.
Thank you.
See that face?
Yeah.
That's the face of a winner. Yeah, you're killing it. Killing it.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, like, I think my whole secret to success in this business is just taking baby steps. That's all I do. It's like, I don't know. People think I know what I'm doing. I try to, but it's honestly about, okay, now I did this. Okay, what is the next baby step that I can take to go forward? Because even if it's a baby step, it's still a little bit, progression or whatever it is. Whatever progression means. I don't even know if I believe in progression anymore. I don't know, Matt. I don't know if I believe in like hustle culture. I'm kind of sick of it. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, this is that desire. I am accused of always working, but I found what I love. I love music, martial arts, and food. Like music, movement, and food. These are the three things I like, and I like them.
Yes.
And with those three things, with music, movement, and food, I studied music. I was a professional musician. I went to culinary school, and I was a chef for a long time. And I love, martial arts and stuff like that. That's all I do. And it's all I want to do on my day off. It's all, so it's like people think I'm always hustling, but I'm not. It's like, I love doing this. I love talking to interesting people about the stuff that they're into and ideas. So technically this isn't hustle.
It's not, because you like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
But the second they're like, but the sponsors don't want you to say that because you're being too political, you're like, fuck you, I feel political right now. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And and it's not their job. Again, art and commerce, right? Like this is one of the reasons why Netflix is becoming so successful, because they know the key to great art and great content is let the content makers make the content and let the marketers do the marketing.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that.
Yes.
And I've said that to a lot of financial people all the time. Like when you walk into, an art world and you start telling them what to do, would you take an artist and would you let that artist walk into your business thing and start giving you financial advice when we can't keep it together financially? Like you get on stage and you do one interesting thing, do it. Like enjoy it. If you can't do that, like you wouldn't take financial advice from us. Like,
right.
Yeah. So it's like,
but I'm trying to learn that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to learn how to figure it out without losing who I am in the process, which I think is like the biggest thing, like figuring out how to merge the two worlds together.
Yeah, skill building. That's another. We could get into that it's because I had to learn cameras and coding and all that stuff, which I'm not any good at it, but I can do.
But you're learning. And you're like talking to all the tech people, and they're like, "Whoa, Matt, you're amazing!" And you're like, "Fuck you!"
I'm like, no. Well, here's the other thing: get good enough to do what you want to do. So this is what I do. I'm not like, so if you wanted to hire me whether it's the online stuff or whether it's like design or even songwriting, I would never please you, right? If you were to hire me to do something for you. But I'm good enough to make what I want happen for me. Does that make sense? So like,
no.
So like I could build me a website. I've built me 6 websites. But if you were to come at me with a list of ideas, like I'm not good enough to make your idea happen, but I can always make mine happen, right? Because I'm willing to give myself the time and the patience to keep repeating it over and over again. But no one is going to pay me money So I could be like, hey, how about this? No? All right, well, what about this? Well, what about, it's like no one's going to pay me for that, right?
Right.
So I'm doing what you're doing. It's like you're just constantly making your own way. And but when you do that, you can, I think we forget about, like, you just need this, the cliche, 1,000 true fans. Once you get there, you only need that 1,000 true fans. Because when you have them, they're buying everything. And you're killing, but when you have all these companies throwing in millions of dollars, then you need hundreds of millions of true fans, like, just so you can make as much as if you just had 10,000. So
yeah, I haven't figured out that portion of it yet either.
No.
Like, I haven't. I don't know how that works, but I know that part of it is also my beliefs about how money can be made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, am I buying into the starving artist's belief?
Yeah.
That creates what what is around me. There is this one artist that does, like, a painter, and I don't know what her name is, but it's like she works with, like, a really deep blue, and like she overlays, like, gold on top of it and makes these beautiful portrait paintings of, like, Egyptian royalty and African American women. It's just beautiful work. It's beautiful work, right? And she said that if you are a starving artist, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm trying to, like, retrain my brain into thinking, like, first it's a worthiness thing. Like, I am worthy of having more, having something, having abundance, having relaxing times, having you know what I mean?
To
like,
love and be loved. That's what we call it. Yeah. There's these parts right here. Right here, right? If you find the diaphragm and then you go up a little bit, this area right here, if you rub on it, those are the areas in the kind of psychosomatic world it means to love and be loved. Like, are you worth the love? Are you worth the reward? Right? And do you have what it takes to give love? And do you feel worthy enough to receive it? Right? And
what is the one for money?
Like, that's usually the right side, and the left side is like emotional stuff. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What is isn't there one, like, isn't like money, like, the root chakra, like, somewhere in your butt or something? Like, sorry.
Yes, money is in your butt.
You
can make money through the butt. Yes, you can.
Yes, there are people that
there
do
are actually
that.
people that
there are people that do that. They have an OnlyFans thing, which I do not think that is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they can do whatever they want to. No shame for them. But anyways, but yeah, no. Isn't there, like, something? There's something there. Yeah. Like, there's, like, a like.
Yeah.
Is that?
I believe it's root chakra. Now I can't remember, or it's sacrum. No, I believe it's root chakra, where it's like right between. It's basically your perineum.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you press that hard enough, that's like you'll heal all your money issues.
Focus on it. Don't just smash it.
Okay.
Just
cool.
Push on it real hard. Yeah, just make that
It'll
money.
Like, open up the chakra points. Like, Den is actually really great with that stuff. Like, where I have headaches, and he'll be like, let me just hold this for you. And I'll be like, that's great. Or he'll hold, like, my foot. Yeah. Like, when I have, like, tummy aches. It's amazing. So I want to learn all those secrets.
Yeah, I always want to show him. I need to show him more. He would be great at that stuff. Yeah.
He's amazing. Yeah. He has magic.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah.
Dennis is just great. We both love the same man. Yeah.
I am okay with that.
Yeah.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
Okay with this.
You have one of the most special human beings, and that guy is.
You have to bug him more. Please bug him more, because he needs his people.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
He's so talented.
And especially since now you've done improv, or you guys are both doing improv, you need to improv shit out of each other.
Yeah, he and I, because I feel, so that's the thing, like, Dennis and I feel totally comfortable with him. I think once you've wrestled with the people and worked out with it, like, especially like him, because he's so loving and open and, just fun.
Yeah.
Like, he's legit. Like, he's a legit, just good person, martial artist. He's like warrior, like poet warrior kind of guy. and he's so giving, and so it's like, and he's hilarious.
Yep. He's like gentle but deadly and all those things, and that's why you two vibe with each other, because you guys are like similar.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so bug him more.
All right, yeah, I've already done 2 of these talks with him. I need to just keep getting him in here. Because every time he comes in, like, he and I will just sit around and we'll just run stupid ideas nonstop.
Yes, and now that he's taking improv, that you guys can do that stuff together, which is great. This is me like, you guys should have a play date.
I would love it. Okay, so is there anything that you would like to tell any of the people in my community? Okay, no, I have something. Could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of martial arts stuff, we're having to be. I've been coaching a lot of people on. They need an online presence now. Like, we're all in front of cameras all the time.
Okay.
Is there any like skill that you think they should cultivate, or anything that you think that would help? Like, out of all the things that you've seen, out of all us weirdos trying to be on camera now, and we don't know what to do, is there any like basic coaching that you would try to like tell anyone?
It depends on what they want to do on camera, but like the biggest thing, the first thing that I always teach all of my actors is relationships are important. So who you're talking to is very important. Make it specific. Make it somebody that you need to evoke that feeling from. So for example, if you're talking to to the random internet crowd, and don't think of them as a random internet crowd, talk to like your best friend. Who is your best friend? Who is your best friend, Matt? Talk to Den, because then it's not, just random people out into the world. It's like an actual relationship, which, it's less imagination work that you have to do. And then if they have, if they're doing like a scene with somebody, you have to like have a very difficult conversation with somebody, figure out who that person is in your life that is hard for you to talk to, and you kind of Photoshop their face on the other person's face. So biggest thing, first takeaway, first lesson is relationships. Everything is about relationships. There's no relationship, there's no reason for a scene, because you're always trying to, in your scene work, change the other person, which I personally don't believe in outside of acting, but in scenes, because scenes are about drama and escalating the drama. You try to change the other person as much as you can, because that's what creates drama. In my real life, I don't do that at all, because I don't want drama in my real life.
It's funny because I was asked the other day how I've been able to say things in environments, that might make people think it's controversial, and I go, and then I've had people repeat things that I've said and they get in trouble for it. But then they're like, "How can you say that?" And I go, "Well, the reason why I can say it is I'm not trying to change you. I'm just simply stating this thing, and and that's it. So like, at no point am I saying it at you, and at no point do I judge you for it. And I'm not trying to change you. So there isn't that judgment, and I'm like, and that actually takes a lot of work because like I'll know if I'm making people upset or angry or whatever, it's because there's judgment, and then there's willfulness, and there's that pointedness to my intention, and they feel that I'm trying to change them or I'm judging them, and so like and that's not cool. But on camera, that's the thing. Like I reverse engineer what I do in scenes in my real life, because I want drama in my scenes, and then I want my real life to be very, very peaceful. I want my relationships to be happy, in scenes, because it's all about escalating the drama. I do the exact opposite. Do you also help people
what I want.
Do you also, because I've heard a lot of people are having to do self-taping. Do you also help people with stuff like that, things like that?
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, like, I specialize in commercials, film, TV, and sitcom. Sitcom has kind of been like my secret sauce right now, because a lot of people don't know sitcom rhythm or like how to approach sitcom. But I do self-taping because everything right now is going towards self-tape, especially in the COVID world. Yeah. So I do help with that if people need help with that. And I'm really good with like even just the basic building blocks of like, okay, now that you first need to know how to act before you start doing the business stuff of it, but I can help with that stuff too.
Oh. Cool. And and what's your website?
HollywoodActorsWorkshop.com.
That's great. That was a great jingle. That was a I just imagine a
It's
sad
actually
cheerleader in the rain where everyone else is left. She's like, Hollywood actors. Yeah. That's what I imagine. Yeah.
That's my website. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop
Cool.
recording. You did great. You did great.
Thank you, sir.